I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 25, episode 21. We're still in the off season. I'm really intent on trying to get to the new season within this episode, which is not going to be easy. It took us 3 the last time, and this is already that third. We are a little bit ahead of where we were a season ago, but really the off season is where most of the magic happens, and we're finding that, at least for a GM, to build the team. Still December, right up on top of the holiday, but we have not one but 2 free agency signings, both at very reasonable deals. We've got Jeremy Pena, shortstop. We'll talk more about him in a second, but we got him for about 1.6 million, and Suarez for a very similar number, I think about 1.7. Jose Suarez is a starting pitcher. You can see from his stats, he's had a couple of rough years. Obviously, his first year was, just introduction to the major leagues. So he's really had 5 years of major league service. And last year with an ERA just shy of 5 is not a great number, but he's on a pretty solid deal there, and gives us definitely another option. But with Pena's younger. He's not been around as long. Houston, 4 years. But he's had 500 at bats each of those 4 years. He's knocked in 20 plus home runs in 2 of those years. And this last year had 73 RBI. I mean, that's an extra 50 on top of those home runs. 239 for the average, but that's a very typical thing for our team. So looking more closely at Pena, 50 for the contact, 55 in avoiding Ks. Okay power, that's that 45, and that's kind of across the board, and has the eye right at 1.6 million. He will hit arbitration in the coming year, but as a shortstop, 60, 65, 70, he's a solid shortstop. Stealing ability is also decent, even though he's not very good speed-wise. This is a quality player right here. Pena can definitely contribute, and at 28, 1.6 million for at least a 1 year, not bad at all. Adding in the simple fact that he's durable, I think, is a big bonus. The question is, how does he compare to Crawford? And as his expectation is bench, it looks like that's the right place for him. He's a little quicker than Crawford, but Crawford +5, +5, same, +10, +5, -5, and +15 with pretty similar ratings. I think you have to stick with Crawford, especially when we can afford him for one more season anyway. And he's signed through this coming season, so he will be coming up on free agency, it looks like, and we're going to have decisions to make on what to do with him long term. We might have to let him go before the trade deadline, or now. It's iffy. I mean, he's 30. Obviously, he's a better player here and now. We missed him most of last season. He really did not get a chance to play very much, with just 57 games after coming off that long, lengthy injury and short rehab assignment. Going for a little shop a player situation. So Barracoto is the guy we just drafted in the Rule 5 draft, and once bringing him into the organization, I'm finding that he's not really the player that I thought he was. Our scouting on him was only average, and once we've picked that up, he's just not good enough. He's a AA guy who's probably ready for AAA this year, but really doesn't have a lot of potential. So I want to move on from him, but I want to get something out of him. Last year's Rule 5 guy Cade Povich, had a rough season and isn't showing the potential. He had a 7.5 ERA. So packaging these two together seems like a no-brainer for me. Couple of Rule 5 guys that we brought in for nothing, and especially with a few of those having gone out. So anyway, shopping them out. A lot of 2.5 star, nothing overwhelming in terms of potential, but a lot of those 2.5 star guys are the 30, 31-year-olds that we just don't want to bring into the organization. But when you get to CJ Abrams, 2.2 million heading into arbitration, but a guy who's hitting 237.4 ERA is not somebody who's going to be commanding a huge pay raise. He is a bit of a journeyman already for just 25. He's been on a lot of teams. He's got a lot of major league time already, which is why he's in that arbitration phase. But also, he can play all over the field. He can play middle infield or any outfield position. So 5 positions available to him as a decent defender, a good base stealer. We're going to go ahead and take that trade. Next move is coming in. So Bryce Wilson is somebody I like. He's done a decent job. Had a 4.14 ERA. We picked him up as a free agent a year ago, but he was an arbitration guy who's going to be making almost $5 million this year. We're playing that small ball, low budget stuff, so he's pretty dang expensive for us, and it's only going to get worse as he hits arbitration again this coming year, which is going to give him some pretty negative value. Well, he's still got some decent value now. Meanwhile, Eniel De Los Santos was another guy we signed last year as a free agent, and on paper, he's pretty dang good, and he's a 3-star guy. For a reliever, that's fine. For a salary, he's not making too much, but he's again going to be on arbitration in the coming year, and both of them are going to get significant pay increases, kind of regardless of how they play. But despite on paper being pretty dang good, for San Diego a year back, he had a 5 ERA. For us last year, he had over 7 as a setup guy who really just did not get the job done in those circumstances. I think maybe as a regular reliever, he would have been fine. But as a setup guy, he just couldn't handle the pressure. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, these are 2 of our more expensive players. It's about $7 million that we can free up, which could allow us to go back onto the free agency market and sign more guys as it's still, December. What we're going to get, there's definitely some offers out there. And what we're going to take for this one is Johan Rojas. Johan Rojas for Philadelphia last year as a rookie, 40 games, okay, not a huge sample size, but he hit 316. But even in the couple of years, or last year and the year prior, he's hitting solidly. He's got good contact, good defense, and he's still got potential to do more. And 25, and we do have a very high evaluation on him. So we're going to take this guy in return, which is going to give us an upgrade in the outfield, where we're a little heavy as it is. So that's the next place to be making a move. We're not done yet. My outfield has become clogged. Austin Meadows is the excessive piece that we don't need. He's somebody we just need to dump. And finding a partner for that has become difficult as he's on the edge of being a negative contract. He's a little bit past that edge. He has a negative contract, just not an awful contract, but at about $4.5 million for his level of quality. Austin Meadows is one of those guys. Anything over about $1 million, maybe $2 million, is just too much for him, and for a very below average, should be a backup kind of guy. So anyway, I finally found a partner. Bags of money, Yankees, Will Warren. Starting pitcher, 26. Not great stuff. 50, 55, 55, 55. Lots of 50s and 55s. He's all right as a starting pitcher. He's actually still on a minor league contract with 0 major league service, meaning he's got options. He could be stored away. He's a decent talent at AAA level. At least has some value. And what we're looking at is a near straight swap. It's Austin Meadows. Plus 1 of 4 guys. Now, Jose Rodriguez is a prospect I don't want to give up. He's young. He's only 20. Potential is only 2.5, but he's got a 70 for that power. If he can get to that, he is going to have some value. Max Wagner is okay. Played at the major league level this last year. I tried to dump Max Wagner. Couldn't last season. He was filling an extra slot. Didn't have options in the way I wanted him, and he hit 216. That's who we're going to end up letting go. The other 2 they wanted were a little too good, Edgar Ramos and, of course, Ruiz. I mean, no way we're giving up Ruiz on the cheap, but we'll go ahead and include Max Wagner to free up $5 million in salary. This is going to put us at 16 million, and there might be something at play now that I have that level of money. The amazing thing is, so far with the moves that I've made, we've actually gained wins above replacement. We are 2.1 wins above replacement better, and currently in fourth. What we've gained is the free agency signing of Jose Suarez and Jeremy Pena. They are the gain side. But Johan Rojas actually has picked up a little bit of wins above replacement, as has CJ Abrams, and overall 5.1 gained. What we've given up is Bryce Wilson and Austin Meadows, and then Rengifo Wagner, the guys that were really costing us in terms of the finances. We've cleared a lot of money away, and what we've gotten is younger and frankly better. Here is that Major League roster now, and of course, looking closely at those finances, yes, we're still paying $11 million for J.P. Crawford, and he's got just the 1 year left on this deal. So it is, to an extent, time to start exploring, and he's definitely one of the oldest guys on the club, but just 30. I think there's actually a decent chance, especially after missing this whole last season, that we could probably sign a couple-year deal for less than what he's making now. I would think it's possible. We might be able to get him for, $7 million, $6 million, $8 million with the next deal at a couple of years. I'm curious on where we could go with that one. Ryan Jeffers is one of the other ones to watch out for, as he's making second most and is probably the backup catcher. I mean, he's almost a 50-50 split, but not a very good player for $4 million. But considering we got him in as a free agent on the cheap, he's been okay for us. Urias coming up is $3.5 million, but we've got everybody else, right? It's $2 million, $1 million. That is so low, and a lot of these guys are not facing arbitration. The group that is coming off relatively small contracts, which means not huge increases. The one to watch out for, of course, is Mason Miller. If he has a big year, he's going to be in for a big pay raise, but he's on auto for that auto renewal. So, okay, I think things are looking pretty good, and that's 26 players right now, meaning we're like pretty much opening day kind of ready, and we've gotten better, not worse. I've been keen to go after this guy. We've freed up enough money, and now I've really kind of changed my mind. At this point, I don't think it's worth it. Griffin Canning, for us, would be right there with Mason Miller as a top of the lineup, top of the order kind of starting pitcher here, with good stuff, good control, 4 good pitches, but nothing across the board. Nothing is amazing. We're talking about a guy who's got like a 1 win above replacement, guy who's going to win as many games as he loses. All stuff that helps us out, makes us stronger, but nothing that's going to be significantly better than what we have. And when it was 16 million, I was like, I think I can just about handle this and trade him in a year, use his value. But now he's turned around and said no, he wants 17 and a half or more. And I know there's negotiation and everything involved, but he's increasing the demands on what they were in the first place. And it's like, no, that's not how that game works. You have a start point, we meet in the middle. I have a start point, he has a start point, we meet in the middle. Not, I have a start point and ask slightly less, and you go, no, wait a second. No, I want even more than what I was asking you in the first place. Yeah, no thanks. And especially when he's about to turn 30 anyway, and has no national popularity, so he's not going to help us sell more tickets. I'm going to take a walk on that one. Arias is the other one who I would be looking at as 2 guys who can be significant contributors, and yet for him, draft compensation would be involved, so not going to bother. We're under 50 million for the player payroll now. We have room for free agents, but just not seeing free agents that are worthwhile. There's a number of 2.5-star guys, so maybe I'll find another. I certainly do have a handful of offers that are out there as it is. International free agency has opened up, and we've built strong relationships with the majority of the players that we've been scouting. They also have a high league interest for almost that entire group, and our scouting accuracy is looking pretty dang good on these guys, meaning world's our oyster, we can take our pick. Well, looking at them, the highest potential guys, of course, they're all in that younger. It's going to settle in, it's going to come down, but we're looking at a really, really strong center field candidate right here who looks phenomenal. Might translate to a DH eventually, but if we're talking about this sort of level of hitting the ball, and look, he's already got some ability now, meaning he's not even that terribly far off. I think this guy has to be our first option. We're going to instantly rise above what he's asking and go for 2.9 million. I have a feeling that he's going to end up being a max contract kind of guy. The next option is a starting pitcher with really good stuff, good control, some good pitches. We're going to go for this guy with what remains. Both of these guys have at least a few additional teams in for them, so we're probably going to end up having to commit to one guy this year and go all in, and we're already looking at a near all in situation for Sarabia. Is he the guy that I want to get? 75, 70, 80 potential. Obviously, never going to quite fully get there, and definitely not good defensively, but this is one of those surefire, looks like a huge prospect, and we might need to just go all in for him. We're going to go straight to the max offer, 5.7, and that probably should lock him up, but we'll find out here real quick. Canning does not want the deal that we offered, so I'm going to let him go. There's plenty of interested teams that are willing to pay him a lot more, so we're not going to be spending that $16 million, but Sarabia, I'm guessing, is going to be a lock. Another element of Portland heritage has, well, it's been drawn upon. Portland weirdos are no longer weird. They are not keeping it weird. They're going old school. We are back to the pilots. Now, of course, there's already a university in the city that is named that, and the history part is rather simple. World War II was, a major thing. I think we could all agree upon that. Portland at the time was one of the hubs where the airplane industry really took off. The Northwest, actually, in general, has been a major element of that. I mean, there's that falling empire of Boeing that's just up the road in Seattle, or just shy of Seattle anyway. But that is the reference, has to do with the World War II impact, and that the airplane industry that was here. And so we're now the Portland Pilots. Along with this, despite new colors and a new uniform, fans in Portland seem to like the change, as polls show an increase of interest for the team. As much as the I'd like to keep it weird part, and that's a more iconic, modern take on the city of Portland. Anything that's going to come out with an increase in interest is something that I'm all for. It's given us a +10 in fan interest, which is a nice mark. It's not a massive mark, but it's good enough. We had lost one with the deals we had made, removing the cash issues that we were having, but that I think is a good start. Where are we at? Projected season tickets is going to be about 1,200 more than a year ago. Average attendance projection is 7,000 more than a year ago, which will increase the revenue per game. We've seen back-to-back years of some pretty healthy increases, and Portland is slowly but surely taking to the team. As far as goals from the manager go, we've done pretty well with them so far. Building the farm is still not quite where they want it, but it's climbing. It's up to 22nd. Edgar Ramos is a decent prospect. We've massively increased fan interest now with a little help on that manner from the board, but things are definitely headed in a good direction for the club. Now it's just a matter of, will we get our guy? Will we get him signed? Hall of Fame voting results: Ichiro Suzuki, second year ballot. Should have been a no-brainer first year, but he is inducted to the Hall of Fame. CC Sabathia in his second year comes up just short. A-Rod is 5.5% away. Beltray is pretty close. There's a lot of guys that look like they're going to get that in the next year or two. Manny Ramirez is dropped, even though 53% ended up voting for him. Beltran, that's a decent number. Andrew Jones is not going to make it with just 1 year left. Highly doubt anyway. Felix Hernandez, 26% second year. Surprised it's not more. But I know that spending his whole career playing for the Mariners at a time where they were really struggling, he was a top of the order guy every year, and he did win a Cy Young or two, I know, but he put up consistent numbers, but the wins weren't necessarily there. So I get it that it's going to take a while for him to get there, but he should be a no-brainer Hall of Famer. Joe Mauer is one that I'm surprised didn't do more, but he, if memory serves me right, and it doesn't necessarily, I had a phase where I was in the Army and didn't watch TV at all. I had a phase where I was in college for 6 years and was rather busy, and there's a good decade missing from my following of sports, and then since then baseball in particular took a little bit of a backseat compared to other sports for me, and I am not as knowledgeable about baseball as I once was. These are the guys that I know a lot more than the ones playing the game today, for sure. But if memory serves me correctly, Joe Mauer had some pretty difficult injuries that really, really saw him benched for a long time. But Joe Mauer was, earlier in his career, a sure Hall of Famer, but then things happened. Surprise Pettit, Cologne, Holiday, like these guys aren't getting much more traction than they are, but the drop players, Reyes, Kemp, that one's a little surprising. Hanley Ramirez, a little surprising. I mean, not huge candidates for sure, but Dustin Pedroia, I mean, really? Pedroia? Okay. Shin-Soo Choo getting 0 votes. It was pretty solid, but solid does not equal Hall of Fame. Starting to get a little bit worried. Sarabia, very strong relationship, very high league interest. That's our guy, and we've got that max offer in, and yet things have changed. For one thing, he's not looking as good as he was, 70 now, but that's our scouting accuracy has fallen off this far in, so we don't know as much about him as we did. There's been a number of guys signed, and most of them were the guys that we were dealing with. It's really cleared out, so let's hope we get Sarabia. Otherwise, we're going to be left with a lot of no idea situations real quick. First, player development update of the new year. Johan Rojas, the big pickup for us. Contact rating improved, eye rating improved, and he is now considered a 2.5-star guy, which I was already seeing him as one anyway. And we've got some improvement of guys at the international complex. Herrera getting better. That's potential, by the way. So potential improving for him, for Barca. And there is Sarabia at our international complex. Okay, we got him. It didn't give me an update that we got. I hate that it doesn't give you an update, but we got our man for a crazy expensive sum. But we have our guy with the high contact, with the high power, with head scout. Okay, we still have high scouting accuracy on him, and he's looking pretty dang good. Now, this is his problem area, is the lack of real quality as an outfielder, but so be it. The 17-year-old needs to come straight into single A. Looking at current abilities, I would think that would be a good place for him, and we are going to bring him up to Class A Stockton right now. Never mind the rookie league, we want him to play the full year. But of course, with that, we have spent every dollar we have, so we've got it taken care of. There is nothing left to do for international free agency. We are ready to begin preseason. I suppose I'm just going to have to accept that we are spending a few episodes every year on off-season But again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and I think I mentioned it at least once in the previous episode, as a GM, this is when and where I make my money. This this is the moves. This is the time where we build a roster properly. This is the time where apparently we rebrand. Payroll just a hair under 50 million and is 29th. There's somebody out there that still has some money to spend, but that budget of 30th definitely limits what we can do. Uh, we had 66 million in expenses last year. We've cut that down to 49 million. We've really freed up some cash, and we've got the ability to re-sign some guys. So flexibility is something we have right now, and yet we've managed to make the squad better. I think Austin Meadows is just about the only player that we've lost that is going to be missed. Okay, maybe not the only one. We are 7th with +2 wins above replacement, and that's impressive stuff. And as we had already noted, the additions of Suarez and Pena have been good additions, and they were both for less than $2 million each. And then Rojas and Abrams have been good trades. Bryce Wilson, the only one that's going to be missed slightly. He was the one that cost us a single point in interest, and he was decent last year with a 4.14 ERA, and he had certainly been good at Milwaukee before that. But getting rid of Wilson and Meadows, who were both making nearly $5 million each, I mean, that freed up a good $10 million. Letting go of Rengifo, who was making $4 million. Was he making $4 million? $6 million? Whatever it was. Like, letting those guys go has given us flexibility and has only cost us a small amount of wins above replacement. So I'm feeling really confident about us moving in the right direction. And this hasn't had to have been a year where I'm dealing with a lot of Phase B rebuilding of minor leagues. We have players that are getting better in the minor leagues. We have options that are getting better. We are acquiring more high potential players. I'm really confident that we are making moves that are starting to bear fruit. And speaking of starting to bear fruit, we were a team a year ago that was 66 wins, better than they had in the last few years, and I think we're absolutely headed more towards that 70 plus. Preseason predictions have us at 72 wins. It's only 2 wins better than a year ago, but again, shaving off nearly 20 million in salary and finding a way to be better. Last year's predictions was 70. We ended up with 66. If we can do anything similar, we're headed in a good direction. Now, as for that base prediction, we're looking at what? Offense, 664 being the weakest. 236 average, still second weakest. Yankees are expected to have a 230 average. Hitting the long ball, still a problem for us. We have the least amount of power. Stolen bases, though, yeah, we do well in that department. 60 stolen bases for Ruiz last year, which led the major leagues. Runs against, defensively, definitely better than a year ago. 761 prediction-wise is almost average. Almost average. It's almost in the middle. That's awfully close. Maybe 8th. 4.33 ERA. 1,400 strikes. Walks at 680. That's a little high. It's definitely, actually, that's a lot high. That's the worst, but overall, it looks like we have improved the pitching staff to the point where they are expected to be middle of the road, and our bats are still gonna struggle. I think the big trend that I'm seeing at the moment is there's a number of teams that are predicted to be really good. There's no teams that are predicted to be really bad. And we're looking at a 67-win Kansas City Royals as potentially the weakest team. But there's a bunch of teams that are predicted to be in that neighborhood. And remember, we were a 66-win team a year ago. And there was a number of teams around us, but there was definitely one team well worse than that. So I suppose that's one key takeaway from the preseason predictions, but we've got a full season ahead of us. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.